Day 1. The advertisement loosely pasted on my town's notice board seemed simple enough. On the white paper, words were crudely scrawled on it, almost like it was written by some kid who had nothing to do. Society not good enough for you. Do you crave perfection? Come on down to Pinewood Docks, Warehouse 5, and take part in a special experiment by psychology expert Dr. Austin Ryder. Spend 5 days living in Utopia, and if you regret it in the end, we will give you $1 million. No strings attached. The poster screamed in my face. Now I wasn't that interested in whatever experiment it was talking about. I mean, I just wasn't keen to become some evil scientist guinea pig. But what really interested me was the $1 million at the end. I mean, yeah, I'm a sucker for money. What did you expect? I'm currently attending a university right now, and those courses cost a ton. Plus, my parents aren't keen on floating a few bucks my way, and I'm having difficulty making ends meet as a waiter/part-time blog writer, so I have to take any opportunities that are handed to me. Well, maybe a few days off couldn't hurt, I thought. It's my vacation, and I don't think the manager would hardly care if I just didn't show up. He would frown at me when I returned and docked my pay, which wouldn't matter because I would be a millionaire by then. Since I didn't know about the experiment's details, I decided to play it safe and take my woodeness backpack with me. It was filled with energy bars, water bottles, a pocket knife, and of course, my trusty journal. I will probably be writing down the events of the next 5 days, so that I can have something interesting to post on my blog, and hopefully get more followers then, I assumed. After a few hours of walking, I finally chanced upon Warehouse 5. It was an ordinary warehouse, save for the fact that a large red banner was dangling loosely around the main doors. "Welcome to Utopia," the banner exclaimed. Well, it's time to face whatever experimentations this evil scientist has prepared for me, I sarcastically said in my mind as I pushed open the doors. The room behind the doors had a small table with a chair, a computer, and a person that I assumed to be the register. Whatever a person behind the registration counter is called. The person looked like those female secretaries you see in movies. You know, the usual bun hair, black rimmed spectacles, and the look of disapproval that was as though she had hated everyone in the world. I walked up to the counter and she looked up. But before I had a chance to say anything, she spoke in a voice that had a monotonous tone. "Are you here for the experiment?" she said. "Yes," I replied, a bit unnerved by the tone. It was almost like she didn't want me to be here. She quickly scribbled something down in her notepad before looking up and speaking in the same monotonous voice. "You will be living with the Bakers. They live in the yellow apartment, 14 Pinewood Drive." I paused. What kind of information was that? I tried to ask what the experiment was about, but she didn't look up again. After a few minutes of me trying to get her attention and failing to do so, I sighed, and presuming the double doors behind her are where I needed to go, I stepped through them. I was shocked at what I saw. The landscape around me, the setting, was strikingly identical to a normal neighborhood. I was standing on a normal road, with normal houses on both sides of the road. Fire hydrants, lampposts, trash cans, and other normal stuff I would find around the neighborhood I live in were also there. I was standing in an ordinary suburban neighborhood. However, something was wrong. The road that I was standing on, it wasn't the normal gravel or concrete road I would always step on when I was back home. It felt strangely soft, like foam or cotton. Every time I took another step, I could see the depression my shoe made on the road before it returned back to normal. And in addition, the closer I analyzed the neighborhood, the more it looked fake. Like the road, the entire neighborhood, houses and all, looked soft and squishy. It was almost like it was in a large bouncy castle that was modeled after a neighborhood. I was a bit unnerved at this, but I didn't really care too much about it. Maybe this is the experiment. Maybe I have to test out how similar this is to real life, I thought as I tried to reason it out. After taking a few more steps, I could hear the doors that I had just passed through slam shut behind me. I looked around and sure enough, the doors were locked. I had to admit, the doors were now so different beside the fake walls that made up the room. Well, time to spend 5 days in this weird place, I thought to myself as I carried on walking. Walking around the neighborhood, I could see a notice board in what appeared to be the center of the place. Like everything else when I touched it, the notice board was also soft and foam-like. Words were imprinted on the board, and when I read it, it was something like, "Rules of Utopia. No killing is allowed in Utopia. No crimes can be committed in Utopia. No deaths are allowed in Utopia." I chuckled at the last rule. The first two I could understand, but how is it possible to allow death, a natural part of life, to just stop? Well, this place is called Utopia after all, so I would expect death to really damage this supposed paradise, I thought. Still thinking about the last rule, I noticed that the sun was setting, like the fake sun in the fake sky, in the fake neighborhood, and the sun that shouldn't be able to move at all was setting. This unnerved me even more than the rule, and I began to wonder what the heck this place was, and what experiment I was exactly in right now. And pretty soon the sun had set, but what was even more unnerving was that, even though there were lampposts, they weren't lighting up, which left me in complete darkness after a while. Unnerved but not panicking, I quickly took out the torchlight in my wilderness bag and I switched it on, filling the neighborhood with light. Well, I guess I better follow the register's instructions and find the bakers, I thought to myself, and I began to start searching for the yellow house. Sure enough, I did find it. I stepped onto the foam stairs, pushed the foam door open, and found myself in a foam living room. The interior of the house was also like the neighborhood. It had the usual kitchen, a dining room, a bathroom with the usual furniture, but they were also made of foam. I began to wander about the house, wondering out loud if the electronics even worked in the neighborhood. Eventually I got tired of wandering around the house and not finding any food in the apartment, given that the foam fridge wouldn't open. I ate my dinner, which consisted of snack bars and a water. I'm going to sleep on the couch now. Hopefully the bakers won't mind a stranger sleeping on their couch. Hoping this gets cleared up tomorrow. Day 2. I woke up to see a face staring at me. After a few seconds, I realized that the face was a human and I was just looking at a person, making me feel a sense of relief. After noticing that I was awake and breathing rapidly, the person immediately stood up and extended his hand towards me. "Hi, my name is John Baker. What's yours?" He said in a crisp, friendly voice. Still reeling from the shock and a bit weirded out by John's sudden surge to introduce himself, I begrudgingly took hold of his hand. "My name is, Tom," I muttered warily. "Hi, Tom," John exclaimed. "Quite frankly, I am so proud to be your friend." Looking at John more closely, I noticed that his appearance looked unnaturally perfect. He was handsome without a doubt, with slicked back hair, a kindly smile, and with no blemishes whatsoever. It was almost like I was staring at a character from one of those soap operas they show on TV, that old women like to watch all the time. Am I your friend?" I said. "Of course. Quite frankly, everybody who sleeps in our house will always be my friend," John excitedly replied. At that moment, I was going to leave the house, hopefully end the experiment so that I could get away from John, who was getting creepier by the minute. I was about to say goodbye and try to find my bag, which had suddenly gone missing, even though I could have swore that I slept right next to it, when the smell of freshly baked waffles wafted from the kitchen. Now, I'm not really a fan of waffles, but the smell was just so good. All thoughts of me leaving the experiment disappeared, and I found myself walking towards the dining room and sitting at the dining table. A woman which I presumed to be John's mother was sitting by the table, seemingly waiting for me and John, with waffles on her plate and 2 others. She had a motherly vibe to her, and she looked just like an ordinary housewife, with the long hair and warm smile on her face. "You're Tom, right?" she said. "I'm Susan Baker. Thank you so much for staying at our house." "Thank you." I stammered, an unnatural wave of embarrassment washing over me. "But of course," John strolled in, loudly replying. "Quite frankly, you are always welcome in our household." I swear to God, John was getting creepier by the minute. I thought, but as soon as I remembered the $1 million, which took quite a while to come back to me for some reason, I swallowed my pride. "Come sit down." Susan gestured at the seat in front of me, and I slowly sat down in the chair. The waffles were on the plate right in front of me now, and I could feel myself drooling now from the smell and anticipation. "Well, what are you waiting for? Let's eat." I didn't need to think twice about that, and picking up the foam fork and knife, I tried to cut the waffles. I said tried here because I couldn't cut them. Not because it was too hard, but because it was made of foam. Everything wasn't real. I laid down my fork and knife and I looked around me. John also sat down, but he was just staring at his food. Susan was also doing the same thing. Nobody was eating the waffles, and I was very unnerved at this point. And on top of that, I was starving. I had only had snack bars for last night's dinner, and I obviously wasn't going to eat the waffles that were fake. Maybe I should just ask Susan where my bag is. That way I could at least have something to eat or drink, I thought to myself. "Excuse me, Mrs. Baker." "Oh, yes." Susan looked up from her plate and replied, Where is my bag? I think I put my stuff in there, and..." "Oh, that thing? I got rid of it. You shouldn't be carrying around such dangerous stuff in Utopia, should you, Tom?" "No, I guess not," I replied. The truth suddenly hitting me in the face. If my bag's gone, I don't have anything to eat or drink. My phone was in the bag, so I can't even message anybody. The only thing that I have is my journal, which I put on the living room table, and which I'm still writing in right now with this foam pen. While I was busy eternally screaming, John, who was next to me, raised his head. "Quite frankly, Mom, you sure do know how to make some great waffles," he exclaimed. Without thinking, I stood up and I shouted, "No, she doesn't. The waffles are fake. You're fake. Everything in this place is fake. The only thing that's real is me, and I'm going to leave right now." After hearing my outburst, both Susan's and John's smile disappeared for a few seconds, but then, just as I thought they had finally understood, both of their smiles reappeared with alarming speed, and Susan simply said, "Are you sick, Tom? Do we need to get you to the doctor?" That was it. I stood up in a fit of rage and I stormed out of the fake house. Fuck this place. Fuck this experiment. I'm going to get out of this nightmare, I thought as I moved towards the door leading to the outside. Only there were no doors. For some reason, in the same place that I had found myself in when I had entered this nightmare, the doors were gone, replaced with that goddamn foam wall. I rushed to the wall and kicked and punched it with all my might, but there were no doors there. Eventually, my kicking and screaming attracted the attention of the people around me, which I only had just noticed. They were all coming towards me with the same smiles on their faces, and they kept saying things like, "Are you okay? Are you sick? Are you alright?" Half angry and half weirded out by the people's behavior, I made up some lame excuse and I just ran past them down the street. As I passed by the neighborhood notice board, in a bid to escape the people who were still coming after me, I saw that something new had been imprinted in red on the board. "No one is allowed to question reality in Utopia. We are real. We are perfect." I'm sleeping in the park tonight. I can't trust anybody here. I might still be hungry, but I don't have a choice. I must tolerate 5 days. 5 days and I'll finally be free of John, Susan, and the rest of this town. Day 3. I woke up hungrier and thirstier than ever before. But I must resist. I cannot go back to that nightmarish house. I must resist. As I wrote this, something changed in the neighborhood. People were walking around the park, not taking any notice of me, talking to the other people, like what you normally see in a normal park. But this was not normal. And the people were not talking normally. Now, either there's something wrong with my ears, or the people started talking louder and louder to other people. They were saying stuff like, "Did you go out to that pizza place yesterday? I hear the food never runs out." And, Mommy, I got full marks in my school test again. Are you proud of me?" And, "Do you want to hear a joke? Why did the burglar rob the bank last night?" "He didn't." While the people were talking, the loudspeaker, which I know for a fact wasn't there, suddenly switched on. And the neighborhood was filled with a voice which I assumed belonged to the mayor of the town. "Hello, my fellow men, women, and children, babies and fetuses. It is a lovely morning, and I'm happy to announce that, as of yesterday, we have continued our streak of not having any accidents, deaths, or peculiar incidents of any kind. I thank you, everyone, and remember, if you're not perfect, you're not real." The loudspeaker boomed, forcing me to cover my ears and move away from the park in an effort to get rid of the goddamn noise. I must resist. Quite by chance, as I was walking away from the noises, I happened to stop near a school. For no reason, I decided to peek into the school from the gate. I was looking at what was supposedly the school field, and the kids were wearing what I assumed to be sports outfits. But they weren't playing. They weren't moving. They just stood there unblinking, staring at one another. Eventually I heard the bell ring somewhere in the distance and the teacher screamed, "Alright, did anybody get hurt? No one perfect. Now hurry on back to class. You wouldn't want to be late because if you're late, you're not perfect. And if you're not perfect then, you're not real." I just stood by the school gate, staring at the children for no reason as they walked to their classes. I wanted to join them. I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be real. I must resist. I cannot let this place get to me. I have to get out of here. I can see John amongst the children. He has been staring at me the whole time, staring and continually smiling at me. I can't take this anymore. I must stop what I'm seeing. I've been starving and dehydrated for 2 days now. The journal that I'm writing in, it seems perfect. Goodbye, Utopia. The cover of the journal turned into a goddamn foam material. Shit. Writing seemed to be the only thing that I could do to calm my nerves. I'm not by the school gate anymore. I'm at the park again. I'm planning to sleep here again, even though I can barely sleep with this hunger and thirst. Maybe the hunger can kill me before this neighborhood does. Day 4. Woke up feeling better. Not hungry and not thirsty. Crap. I'm not supposed to feel better for no reason, unless the scientists behind this crazy experiment may have kept me alive. I just spent the entire morning screaming and cursing at the sky, so that those bastards could hear me. They were the ones who had put that poster up. They were the ones who had lured me into this nightmare. They deserved to die a slow and painful... It was my fault. I was foolish to believe that I could become a millionaire in 5 days. And now, here I am, alone in a world of fucking perfectionists. I did this to myself. Maybe I can hold out the last 2 days, and not lose my mind to these people. But it's getting harder and I'm tired of resisting. The mayor is speaking again, and so are the people. The voices are getting even louder now. They keep repeating the same thing over and over again. We are perfect, so that we're real. The imperfect ones are an illusion. We are perfect, so that we are real. The imperfect ones are an illusion. I can't resist anymore. I'm trying to sleep now, desperately trying to drown out the noise. I must sleep. Only one more day left. Day 5. I woke up in the park today. I quite frankly didn't know I was sleeping in the park. I was supposed to be sleeping in my bed, in the baker's house. I had just moved there 4 days ago and I had been staying at the baker's. Quite frankly, I think they are quite kind and generous. I can't imagine anyone who would abandon them. Without hesitating, I grabbed my trusty notebook and I rushed back to the yellow house on 14 Pinewood Drive. Sure enough, they stood in the front door, waiting for me. I rushed into Mrs. Baker's open arms, and I apologized for abandoning them. Don't worry, Miss Baker reassured me. Now that you're real, you will never make any more mistakes, ever again. Do you know why we are real? Because we are perfect. We are smart. We knew that food was running out, so we made it permanent. We knew that our kids had to get good jobs, so we made them become geniuses. We knew that death was pointless, so we made it forbidden. We knew that society refused to change, so we created our own. We became perfect so that we could be real. I just cried after hearing her words, and I sunk deeper into her arms. Come on, Miss Baker said after a while. We will be late for baking time and we don't want to be late, do we? No, Mrs. Baker, I said as I detached from her arms and I smiled. Together we entered the house. I am real because I am perfect. Note: on August 11th, 2015, authorities from the town of Pinewood received an anonymous tip regarding the location of the people who had disappeared over the past few weeks. While conducting a raid on Warehouse 5 in Pinewood Docks, they came across a horrifying sight. The missing people were trapped in cages, and most of them were severely malnourished and dehydrated. Dr. Austin Ryder and several people were arrested, and they admitted to hooking up the victims with hallucinogens to make them believe that they were living in a utopia, where everything was perfect for them. While some of the victims succumbed easily to the delusion, some tried to resist the hallucinations, only to later succumb to it as well. Among the victims, one of them, Mr. Thomas Winter, kept a journal with him that detailed the ordeal he went through before he went insane. Now I'm showing you the contents of this journal, because I knew, as his sister, that he wouldn't want anybody else to share this same ordeal. Now, as I'm typing this, sitting beside my brother's bed, I can see him staring awake and gesturing at me right now. The ordeal has left him mute, so he now forms simple words and starts conversations using my keyboard and notepad. I'm going to show you what he had just written. He sat up in his bed and he grabbed my laptop, and he typed one word. I am perfect.